Welcome to the Village Vision podcast, where community, collaboration, and care converge. I'm Dr. Crystal Morrison, and I'm honored to be your host on this incredible journey. As a firm believer in the power of a united village, I'm thrilled to bring you inspiring stories, research, and projects that break down barriers in child and family care. Through heartfelt conversations with experts, advocates, and those with lived experiences, we'll showcase the transformative impact of collective support. So join me on the Village Vision podcast as we explore the remarkable collaborations that lead to better outcomes, foster a sense of community, and inspire action to improve care for ourselves and everyone around us. On today's episode, I'm here with Samson Johnson. Samson is a native Pittsburgher and my neighbor. He's a philosopher and an avid youth mentor. Welcome, Samson.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal, for having me. I'm excited for the things you have going on, and I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. Samson, you and I had a great few conversations recently about the importance of human connection, just that
Mhm.
natural, how we naturally crave human connection. And not only human connection, but doing the important work on ourselves first before we can really accept help for others. Um,
Mhm.
but I want to talk about that and we'll get there. But before we go there, I want you to share with our listeners a little bit more about the why behind your message.
Right. And the why for why I want my message is that, growing up with, I grew up with a lot of kind of trauma, and
Mhm.
you know, I didn't know how to use that trauma and try to navigate my life um, after uh, after leaving my mother's house at 18.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any male role models or any of that stuff. And so what I kind of started, and I'm a philosopher, so I take everything and I analyze it. It
Sure.
can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing,
I'm the
but
same, the same.
so I analyzed that and I started looking at my life and I was like, wow, this is probably the cause of my suffering and
Mm,
all the stuff that's going on right now is because I have all this stuff from my childhood masked up. I have all this stuff of trying to find my identity because I was told by my parents this is me, this is not,
right.
and people in general telling me this type of stuff. And so
Exactly.
what I realized was that I needed to start doing some self-care and root work.
Right.
And so I kind of realized that, and from there, it's been a treadmill because I've been going and reading books and just um, unrevealing all this information that I had no idea about who we
Mhm.
are as human beings. And so I really believe that it has helped me and it has gotten me to where I'm at today. And so a lot of the self work that you do is honestly for me it was a little more difficult because I was running away from everything.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to sit down. But as the saying goes, just because you go somewhere else doesn't mean anything. Your problems follow you.
Right.
And so uh, I found out was that I actually started realizing that I had a lot of this stuff going on, and it was because of my childhood
Mhm.
and growing up with all the abuse and trauma that I went through.
Mhm.
And so I was reading this book, and it was called "It's Not Your Fault," and it was about this guy who wanted to go over to the Middle East and talk with the Buddha.
Um, but your focus is really internally, right? The trauma
Yeah.
that you experienced and how that has shaped the lens that you see the world. And
Hmm.
and we all have trauma to different degrees, but one of the absolutely best books on this topic that really got me to thinking differently is What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry. It's a really
Hmm.
phenomenal book, but the main thing he talks about is we always ask people, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Hmm.
What's wrong?
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and we're implying that something is wrong with them. But the question should really be, what happened to you? What
Yes. Yes. I
happened
agree.
to you that, really kind of prompted some of the behavior or the things that you're experiencing? And so,
Hmm.
an excellent book, but I definitely wanted to acknowledge that when we hear a lot about trauma and and we talk in terms of other people's trauma, but
Hmm.
our own trauma has shaped how we see and experience and navigate the world, right?
Yeah.
You do a
Hmm.
great job through different roles you've had in the past and you have now. What's a key message that you would want to leave a teenager with if you were chatting with them in the coffee shop or if you met them in the gym? What's something key that you would want to impart on them?
So I would like to, usually I like to tell them is that, or I like to, give this to them as a message and say that, life is going to be difficult and life is going to go up and down and turn you around like roller coasters. Find an outlet for
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
um, because life is going to be tough and difficult. And if you don't have an outlet, you know, that stuff can become internalized. All that
Mhm.
stress and, anxiety can now just be sitting. And, the oftentimes about that stuff is if it's just sitting and you don't have an outlet, usually what happens is you explode. And sometimes we explode on the wrong people, spouses, family members, friends, and people don't know what's going on at this point, and they're wondering why this individual is upset. But it's because he hasn't found an outlet
Yeah,
to life stressors.
yeah.
And even if it's not going to the gym, walking, taking a walk, doing something that's going to help relieve that tension. And so I always, yeah, so I'm a big advocate of that.
Well, we're going to wrap up today. Samson, thank you so much for joining us today on the Village Vision podcast. I really admire you tremendously and admire you for doing that root work, not only talking about the work that you've done on yourself, but encouraging other people to do the same and really giving them a framework and encouraging them. It's
Mhm.
incredibly powerful to have that example. So I'm grateful that you shared your story with our listeners. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be on the show, and I wish you the best and all the success to come with the show and everything like.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.